Welcome back to the Akashic Almanac Guidance from Within podcast. I am your friend and host, Brittany Woods, bridging the seen and unseen worlds of our reality. I cannot tell you how excited I am for our guest today. You guys, one of my favorite episodes yet. For real. I re-listened to the recording and I'm just blown away at the insight and the vulnerability, clarity, and the humbleness of Britt Lynn. So, Britt Lynn is a self-study intrapreneur. Yes, you heard that right, intrapreneur, and we will dive into that and what it means in a bit. She is the host for Sacred Sister podcast. Definitely check that out after our conversation here today. Her YouTube channel is Britt Lynn. I highly recommend checking that out for inspiration with self-care, moon magic, numerology, so many more, and overall just getting to know her better. She is the creator of Sacred Self series. We dive into that as well, but her first course is creating a sacred space. And you can find more about this on her website, BrittLynnYoga.com. Of course, this will all be in the description below, so just click the links. And there are more courses to come. It's really exciting what she's put together for us. You can even become one of her many satisfied and inspired clients because she is also a personal transformation coach. For a clarity call with Brit, you can find out more information on her website as well. If you thought that was all, there's more, because this fierce, beautiful woman is also a model for TNG Models, which is based in Los Angeles. So, honestly, I could go on, but let's get to the topics of today's discussions. Britt was so open and honest with us for this podcast. I cannot thank her enough for spending time with me and having such a wonderful conversation. We talk about her creative process, her dreams and visions, how light language was channeled to and through her, the different limbs of yoga, especially dealing with discipline. We talk about death and rebirth, and she gives me a lesson on numerology. One event that I want to mention is her Gaia streaming movie night. So Thursday, May 7th, so this week, on a full moon no less, we will get comfy in our own homes, wear PJs, wear whatever you want, have popcorn, and we'll meet up on Zoom where Britt hosts a movie night for us. You don't have to have a subscription to Gaia. It'll be streamed for us with a discussion to follow after the video. Gaia is well known as the Netflix for spirituality, so DM Brit at Britt Lynn Rising on Instagram for more information, and please join us this Thursday because I can't wait. You guys, without further ado, here we go, diving in, Britt Lynn. Britt Lynn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for asking me. I feel like it's the two Brittany, the world of the two Brits collide.
I know, it was funny. I kind of was emailing myself, hey Britt, how's it going?
I know, I was receiving your emails and it's just so much fun. Like when I was in grade school, I was running into so many more Britneys than I feel like I do nowadays. So whenever I am running into Britneys, it's like, instant camaraderie. Like I feel you.
Yes, exactly, yes. So I have been following your Instagram, which is at Britt Lynn Rising, for some time, and I think my favorite part about being one of your followers is how authentic you are. So there's no BS on your page, right? Aside from when you're posting memes, which is something that is inspirational and funny, and but you have this gift of cutting to the core, I feel like, of every message you speak out about. And you have fun and you have joy when you do this, but I just think you're so authentic and you don't water down serious topics like a lot of people can. They can brush over serious stuff, but you dive right in. And I just want to say I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. And just like hearing you say a lot of this right now, I'm actually getting emotional because it's so beautiful to for myself just be putting this content out in the first place. I usually don't know how people receive it very much. So hearing insight on how it is landing in the eyes and ears of those who see it is just such a blessing and such a gift. And I think it is something that maybe a lot of people don't hear. So allow me to say it here as the content creator. It is such a gift. It is a reciprocal healing process to be a content creator and be releasing the things that are on the heart. Because for myself, at least, I'm releasing the things that my heart feels that it wants to express. And that's kind of all that I have in it. It's like, yeah, I trust that it's going to land in the eyes and ears of those in the collective who are meant to see it. And that's kind of it. It comes off of my heart and I release it. Same with my blog articles and my YouTube episodes and my online courses and my podcast episodes. It's like for the majority, we're hearing back from maybe like between zero point 0.1 and maybe 10% of the people that we see view the content. So every single piece of engagement is so valuable for me as a content creator to really gauge the insight of who's receiving this, who's on the receiving end, and how is it landing with you? Is it resonant? So thank you. It really means a lot.
Of course. I mean, you inspire me. I mean, you inspire me to keep doing and keep creating and, so yeah, so you keep going. Keep doing what you're doing because it's working. I wanted to dive in. So you say that you're a self-study intrapreneur, not entrepreneur, but intrapreneur. And I want to know more about what this means for you and how that expression made its way into your life. And I know you've shared about it before, but maybe for people listening, they've never heard of it.
Yeah, so this is a little transition that I just made a couple months ago, and it just made the most sense for me at the time. So a girlfriend of mine went to a retreat center, and she heard this concept of an entrepreneur, and the way that it was spoken about is that you're asking yourself, entre with the E, are you offering things to the collective, and do you also have visions of selling your business one day? Or do you feel that you are the integral part of the business, like that it actually you have a key part in it, and such a key part that maybe you're not going to be able to sell this to other people because other people cannot fill the shoes in the way that you can, and what you're offering is like a special magic that's unique to you. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not ever hoping to sell this company. Oh, it's 11:11 right now too. And I feel like I do offer it in a way that likely cannot be filled by anyone else. So who knows what it is to evolve into and if that title is going to change, but that's the perspective that I have, and that's the way that it lands with me right now.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I love that. I love that. I wanna start sharing that with people who I give readings for because I feel like, they need the extra boost of, like, can I really trust what I'm going through, and can I really trust my own guidance? And I wanna start saying, like, "Yes, you're a self-entrepreneur, of course,"
Yeah, so the whole entrepreneur part I explained, but the self study aspect of it is truly what I feel the most called to communicate on, and what it seems this business is unfolding itself into. So, in the yogic system, there is an aspect of the branches, if you think of the yogic system like a tree, and one of the limbs is the niyamas. So, of the five niyamas, the internal principles, the internal disciplines that we show up to the world with, um, the fourth of those is svadhyaya. And svadhyaya is a Sanskrit word that translates to self study or self knowledge. And when I learned about this aspect of the yogic system in my yoga teacher training in 2015, this whole series of synchronicities began opening up for me that gave me these insights to see myself more fully and see myself in a way that I had never known. See these aspects of perfectionism and severe social anxiety, identity crisis that I never realized that I had within myself. And coming to see myself more fully in this way, just really, it like I just feel like this immense bond or this immense cord like this BCAD moment, this pivotal chapter was turned in my life that like began this other process of self-study and self-knowledge, self-knowing because of my past with severe identity crisis and literally not knowing who I was. So knowing that there was a whole series of tools and practices that would help me come to know who I am more fully was really, really enlightening. And it was really, it was so so powerful to know, because when you grow up with such identity crisis and you truly feel like, for me, I was just always trying to be whoever I thought other people wanted me to be. And um, when you lead a whole life like that, like 25 years to some extent, at varying capacities, it is incredibly it turned my whole world upside down to truly learn that, like, oh my God, Brittany Lynn Rael has like an actual energetic body and a unique spirit that's unlike anybody else. And you're telling me I don't have to show up as who other people want me to be in order to be accepted. And, like, just this whole unfolding happened that for me is so powerful. And I feel like I see this reflection now in the collective so much of people who feel very disconnected from themselves, and they are tuned into this matrix where it's not as prominent a conversation that we actually are unique beings, and that our life doesn't have to be fraught with suffering, and that we are able to come back to the truth of who we are.
So I love that. And I want to mention that I love when you post videos of you singing. And when I grew up, I loved singing. Like, I thought as an 8-year-old that I would be a famous singer one day, and that was like my purpose. And I don't sing really anymore, but when I watch you sing and how you create, and there was one YouTube video I saw where you woke up from a dream and you were being sung to or singing with these beings, and they had a message for you. And then you created this song and you sang it. And what is that like for you? So, what is your creative process like, and how are you using your voice as a connection to spirit?
I really love how you worded that just now about having the dream and these beings giving me this message and waking up and knowing that it had to come through, because I was listening to it like it was a story, and I was like, "Oh, what is this that she speaks of?" And then I remembered, like, "Oh yeah, that was whenever I received the song in light language." And I woke up just having it on my heart to record. So let's talk about that, because the unfolding of the relationship with spirit is something that I'm so captivated by, and I'm still learning from every single day. And being an endlessly curious Gemini sun, I am just waiting to see what it unfolds to, and open to see what it unfolds into every single day. So, this specific occurrence that you're speaking of has happened to me a couple times, but this was the first time that it had happened. And what basically happened was, in the dream, I remember that I was at a fire, and I've always had very vivid dreams. I'm not a lucid dreamer. That's still something that I'm hoping to step into one day, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened yet. But as a vivid dreamer, I have these really just remarkable occurrences, and I have internal processes that go on in my dreams. And the dream space is definitely someplace that I draw a lot of my own insight from and perceptions of life from. So I'm at a fire in the dream, and I'm in a song circle, it seems, with some other women that are in my physical reality. They're women that I admire here in the physical world. And I remember there was one person specifically who was Mackenzie Madrone, who is one of my vocal opening teachers. And I know her from Spirit Weavers, which is a spiritual women's gathering in South Oregon, who I've sat with a number of times. And I also went to her song retreat. But actually, this song came just before I went to her song retreat. So we were singing at a fire, and I hear this whole enmeshment of sounds in these melodies. And the very last portion that I heard went Nyanganke Piashite Aha, and it was this beautiful melody. So I woke up, and this whole song sort of started evaporating, that space where your brain starts functioning at a higher and higher rate, and then your dreams start sort of filtering out unless you catch them. So I said to myself, okay, I reached over and grabbed my audio recorder, and I just sang it the way that it came through. Yeah, that translation or the song is on Instagram that you can go and listen to on my Instagram feed as well. But just having this sort of dream that you wake up, you don't know what happened, and then you type into your Google and start trying to decode what these possible languages are, and it winds up being something that has a very large tie to the natural world, is such a fascinating mixture of where the energy world and the astral realm meets the physical reality, you know? It's just these really beautiful messages that come that are like, who knows how they come? Who knows how they come? But I know that they're coming, and it's happened numerous times since, and I'm open to whatever messages that spirit would like for me to decode.
Yeah, and then you beautifully put it together in music and you sing it, and I admire that. I've had dreams too. It's funny you mentioned dreaming of light language because I've recently um dreamed that I was being sang to in light language. Like a higher being was singing to me in light language, and I think that's how it has to come and download first is like in our unconscious dream state because I think it's too potent.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, thank you for sharing that process. And I think it's so fascinating when we do open up about the ways that different messages come, because while this may be your process, and this has been my process too, as a matter of fact, there are other, light language facilitators and teachers that I've sat with where she facilitates this whole opening so that we are able to receive light language, and people are able to just access it coming into their unconscious and out their mouth. So it's fascinating to see all the ways the messages can come.
Yes, and I've seen videos, on Instagram too where people are just channeling it, but I don't think I'm, at that point yet, right? Like, I'm like, the dream state will do for now, but it fascinates me and because it's so beautiful, and it's where we're headed, right? Like, that's where we're headed, so it's really exciting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think people just learning more and more of what's out there and the ways that we're able to receive these transmissions, and whether or not it like has a meaning, quote unquote, or actually you go through and like uh Google and try to find translations and stuff. It doesn't always have to come to that. Like I said earlier, I'm just so endlessly curious that it's sort of a natural part of my process. But yeah, my girlfriend Jilly, who actually I met her at that song opening retreat that I went to of Mackenzie Madrone's, and we had her on the Sacred Sister podcast, and she is a light language facilitator. She also has one of those Instagram handles, I think it's called Light Language Collective, where she posts videos of other people's light language transmissions from all over the world. And it's so fascinating to see how differently it comes through with different people. And for me, that's one of the most telltale signs that something like this is a valid, I mean, what is valid anyway, but like a real occurrence that's happening within people, that they really are opening themselves up as vessels and channels to receive these streams of sound, because they sound so different for everyone. And doesn't it make sense that as a unique individual with our own unique vibration, that we would be receiving messages that are sounding so different?
Yeah, that is so true because everyone is unique. You're so right. Like how we have so many similarities, but everyone is unique and we all have our own unique way of processing. So we're going to receive things in a unique way. So I love how you said that. Yeah, very well put. Yeah. I want to ask, so for those who are just feeling like maybe they don't know who they are yet, or maybe they're trying to figure out self-identity and just going through the motions of who they want to be, what would you recommend? You said yoga was really important for you on this path. What would you recommend to someone who's at that moment that you were?
That's a really great question, and it's so interesting. I've been asked that on a couple other podcasts too. It seems like a natural question to ask somebody like me whose whole work is about self-study. So the best answer that I feel like I can give in this moment is that everyone's process is so unique. Everyone's process is so different. And I think that this is actually a piece of the sickness that we are beginning to awaken to in the collective, that somebody has the answers for them. This is the way that I definitely perceived the world too. Like, I just wanted to find whoever it was that had the answers and knew what was best for me, because I was so detached from my own inner truth. And my greatest piece of advice is to allow the self to be guided. As triggering as that may be for some people, especially if you don't feel that you've come to a place that's feeling resonant with the idea of a higher power or source consciousness or God, goddess, divine creator, great spirit, whoever it is that you feel is the creator of all that is. It can be incredibly challenging and triggering to hear something like that. But I will even say this, because what initially led me to the yoga teacher training was, now looking back, a very divine synchronicity. But at the time, I started doing yoga in November 2014 so that I wouldn't gain weight over the holiday season.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very mundane sort of reason that I started this whole practice in the first place. And that, I think, is another potent piece of magic, because who knows what's in store for you by doing the things that you want to do for whatever reason. You know, the most magical occurrences can happen just as a result of you wanting to do something good for yourself. So who's to say? Like, I have no clue what what it is going to be for somebody else. And I will say this, I only just started being liberated to say this. This is my first platform to really, really sink into this. Like, I have no clue what is going to be of work for you. You are the most powerful being that you know, and you are the most powerful piece of consciousness that you could be tapping into. That if you will yourself and you thirst for change, genuinely thirsting for transformation and personal power and liberation, the only thing that you need to do to know what the next path and or the next piece of your process is going to be is intend that it is unfolding for you. Understand that universe is always wanting the best for you and working in your favor. And if you only start tapping into that vibration of allowing yourself to be guided, those opportunities will start coming. The teachers, the workshops, the speakers, the YouTube videos, the podcast episodes will start falling into your path. And just trusting that guidance is where we can start to really source that connection with the divine.
I think you said it perfectly, because everyone is so unique and we're all on our own path. And I have to just reiterate, when you thirst for change and the when you thirst for that transformation, the universe works in your favor. And it's so true, because it does. And when you're ready for the change will be brought to you when you're ready, right? Like, the teacher shows when the student is ready, or that saying, which I love. But I think it's like the master shows when the student is ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even if sometimes things happen that it doesn't feel like you're ready for it too, I have to say, I never thought that I would be ready, and I never really was ready for my mom to pass away. Like, this is a heavier topic, but it's important for me to also touch on, because we can see things that are so they're so tragic. They're so traumatizing in so many ways. We can see a lot of our traumas as these like buttons that turn our victim mentality on, that can actually really shift our lives, and not for our benefit. It can shift our lives into a spiral of suffering, and it is very hard for us to see outside of that realm of reality, because for us it really is traumatizing, and a great deal of suffering. So even in instances like that, being able to connect to divine and say, what is this providing for me? Like, I know it sounds wild to think that anything is like being provided for me in this, but how may I grow through this opportunity? What is this here to teach me? What is this here to learn? How am I here to learn through this experience? And by showing up in that way, my mom had space to start coming through and showing me that life beyond the veil is what goes on, that life beyond the veil is what her reality is now. And the most potent, synchronicities have come across. And just being someone that also didn't believe in that before this happened, I would hear people say, oh, I connect with my, person who crossed over. And as someone who's never experienced that before, I would sit back and be like, that's nice that you feel that way, but, that's wild and highly improbable. And, there was just this piece of me that wasn't willing to really perceive that yet. And the ways that she's come through to me in the last year and a half and continues to is undeniably like things that would only make sense to me. And it's such a beautiful transition. It's so important for me to talk about that too, because I don't talk about the intricacies of the ways that I connect with my mom very much anymore. But I don't know. It's such a fascinating thing. I think I'm just not ready to start really opening up about it yet, but I know that it's going to be a part of my path in the future for sure.
Yes, I think it is so brave of you to go through something tragic and heartbreaking, but to still have the bravery, like the strength to then say, okay, universe, what is this providing me? Because there's something here for me to grow from, and what is this? Like that takes strength. And it's beautifully said. And I think people don't talk about death, and death is such a huge part of the human experience.
Mhm.
Um, so I know you've said what you wanted to say, but I look forward to when you're ready to say more, because there's wisdom here for you to share with others. And when you're ready, I'll be here to listen to that wisdom, because it's hard. Death is hard, but it's part of life, and we can start talking about it in a way from our higher selves, looking at it from a perspective of love. And death is only a horizon.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah, it's it really helped me tap into that cycle of death and rebirth, and the fact that it just doesn't end at death. I mean, it can if you close yourself off to it and you believe that death is the end, as most people in my family do. And um, it's so hard, especially with the way that times are moving and the sicknesses that are so much more rampant than they were in decades past. And people are getting so much sicker at such an earlier age. And death is, at least for me and my family, I have a really, really big, big family. And both sides of my family are from small town New Mexico. So I'm experiencing death more and more and more as time goes on. And it's tough to see the ways that it affects family, and the way that it can be just such a sufferous burden for so many people who don't necessarily have the open spirit, the open capacity to receive messages from spirit, or they are fearful of these messages and they ask God to take them away from them, which then God will do.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important, especially through what we're going through with COVID-19, even like, it's changing the way we view health, but I think it's going to start changing the way we view death. I've had clients ask me in their records, their Akashic records, to speak to loved ones, and it's very real. And we don't die, we transition. And a lot of us on earth right now are choosing this time, this year, to transition out of body. And how can we start looking at it from that point of transition and not death? Because there's life after death and we can feel it, but it's hard to know it, you know? Yeah, so I think the conversation when you're ready for it surrounding death and fear and how to move past that is going to be really huge for people.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing to touch on. Thank you for sharing that piece of the process too. As someone who opens up those records and has access to, or not even has access to, because we all have access, but someone who's willingly showing up to that channel to receive messages, it's such an important thing. So thank you for doing that for people right now, because it's so important.
Yeah, I'm honored. I really am. And thank you for sharing your story because that's not easy. But again, you're so true to you. Like, you're so true to who you are and what you're going through. And so thank you, really.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is like it's been such a obviously, internal process, and 2019 was largely devoted to um, just hermiting myself inward. I was numerologically in a personal year two, which is the high priestess year, and really going within to find my inner magic and to learn who I am unapologetically. And these are the ways that some of the self knowledge systems, like astrology, like the chakra system, like, did I say numerology or astrology? Whatever, both of those. There are just so many systems that we can tap into. And when we really allow ourselves to receive guidance from those systems and we follow those as little trailheads, as little breadcrumbs that are leading us back to ourselves, it becomes so much easier. Like for me last year, knowing I was in numerology year two, I was like, okay, cool. External focus, not so much there. I'm not going to give myself a hard time being less so on social media. I'm not going to have a hard time when I go a month without posting. I'm not going to have a hard time whenever, it's like I don't want to hang out with friends. I just want my little tiny circle, and that's it. I'm diving into myself this year. And for some people, like for instance, I had a clarity call yesterday with a potential client that she has this hard feeling, this nagging feeling that she should be showing up, and she sees on social media so many people say, shine your light, shine yourself into the collective, shine your spirit, be radiant, be brilliant, all this. And it's a narrative that I see a lot too, but for us to even be so personally liberated that we understand and we can see those messages and say, yeah, those messages are going to hit the people that need to see them, but I'm not one of the people I'm not the audience for that right now. And I don't have a hard time giving myself that freedom that says, that's so beautiful for some people that are shining in that way, but I'm just not there right now. That's not my truth right now, and that's okay. Collectively, we're in a year 4 right now. 2020, 2 plus 2 is 4. And the way that we can find out what personal year we are personally in is by taking our birth date. So for me, it's May 21st. 5 plus 2 plus 1 is 8. And then taking this year, so 2020, which is 4. So 8 plus 4 is 12. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So I'm in a personal year 3. And collectively, we go through just the year that we're in. And for myself, stepping out of this year 2 of very internalized nature and stepping into the year 3 where I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned so much last year. Can I just open up and share about this? Like numerology year 3 is the ruled by Gemini, and it is the communicative networking nature to share stories, to just create, to dive into new creative projects, and to just birth things outward. So I'm finding this very resonant for me this year. And collectively, I believe, at least what I am seeing in the numerology year 4 for the collective, is this restructuring, this reframing of programs, reframing of values. We are, like, as a collective, building this new framework for the future.
Yeah, I think that that's beautifully said because we can look at numerology and get our like individualized number and then also see how we kind of relate and have a relationship with humanity's number, like the year. So
Right.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I haven't done much with numerology, but I am fascinated by it. Do you do it per month or do you just look at your year?
So there are honestly dozens of numbers that you can look at. I even, as someone who works with numerology a lot, I work with my own spiritual growth years. Like I'm on a spiritual awakening year 5, which just means that since 2015, that starts a new numerology pattern. And in my relationship, I just passed my year 7, so I'm in a year 8. The energy of our marriage and relationship has completely shifted. So there are just so many different numbers that you can tune into. And that's one of the most fascinating parts about numerology and practicing with numerology. I wouldn't say, I mean, you can go month to month. This is another thing where it's like there are no rules necessarily. And if something is resonant for you, who's to say that that's not something that's real? That's not something you can be tapping into with any validity or liberation with, you know?
Yeah, I am so new when it comes to like numerology and astrology. So anything about it, I'm just like, I need to know everything. Tell me more. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
homework.
yeah.
I feel like I have homework to do, but
I mean, there's so many processes to tap into, and it's so lovely. Like, okay, so all of April I've been receiving ones and fours, just repeating numbers, ones and fours all over the place. And I actually did an Instagram TV on decoding messages via numerology. And right now I'm on my computer. I just looked at the time the last time and it was 11:41. I have my Gmail inbox open and I have 1,404 emails. Oh my gosh. And right now, actually, at that very moment that I said that, it was 41 minutes and 11 seconds that we had been recording.
that's amazing.
It's
Um,
beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it's like these moments where the numbers are showing themselves and I see them. I am the sole catalog of the ones and fours that show up. And the only way that I'm really able to start diving deep and getting vulnerable and opening up about this process of a spiritual knowledge system or a self-knowledge system is by getting vulnerable and communicating it outward, regardless of how I know people are going to respond to it. Like this might be something that I spend 5 hours editing a video on and then nobody responds to it. I have no idea.
mhm.
I have no clue. But I do know that it's on my heart to share and that it's impactful for me. It's changing my life to see the way that these patterns are showing up and to decipher and decode my own messages that are resonant for me at this time. And this place that you keep talking about me being in of personal power and personal liberation, it's true. I feel that in my bones. And it's really important for me now to show up as this person who's like, yo, I'm tireless with this work. I've been doing it for 5 years nonstop every day, showing up to my own stuff. And it's totally changed my life. It's changed my reality. It's changed my income. It's changed my life path. It's changed my outlook on the world. It's changed all of my relationships in my life for the better, for my benefit. And it's really important for me to communicate that in such a way that says, this is not just for me, this is for all of us. And this is the purpose that God or divine great spirit has for all of us if we're willing to tap into it, if we're willing to commit ourselves to the work.
Yes, it's discipline, right? Like show up to your own stuff. I love how you said that. It takes discipline, right? Like it takes a lot for you to see your own stuff and show up to it. Yeah. I love
Yeah, this is actually another aspect of those niyamas, those internal disciplines. The first of the niyamas is tapas, which is a Sanskrit word that translates into fiery discipline. And it is that passionate drive. It is allowing that fire, that spirit to be ignited within the self that is like endlessly passionate, endlessly curious, endlessly ready to soak in what this human experience has for us. Because it's like, what is this life about? what is going on here? What are we here for? Who am I? Who are you? How are we relating to one another? How are we relating to this earth? It's like we become so inundated with our own societies, like some of us who are living here in the West or other places. This is why I think it's so important for everyone to travel by themselves to a third world country at least once in their lives to really experience the fact that we are so privileged in for the majority of us. We are so privileged, and we don't even necessarily realize how privileged we are until we see the scope of the reality of so many other people, the majority of the rest of the planet. And it's really important, I think, that people open their eyes to stuff like that so that we can have a different scope of perspective and really value the lives that we have and make the most of them so that we can be of service to others.
Yes, to be of service. And that is so important, especially on a path of seeking, like seeking your highest self and seeking higher wisdom, like being of service. I totally agree. Travel to a third world country, it is the most humbling experience you'll ever have because it will make you it'll remind you to be grateful. It'll remind you to be grateful even for like running water, like the smallest things. So, yeah.
Yeah, wow, this whole conversation has just taken so many beautiful turns. Beautiful, beautiful turns. Thank you so much for everything that you did have to ask. I guess there's a part of me that feels like there are some audience members about the question about, what can people do to start their path or to open themselves up to spiritual practice or whatever. And this is a piece of where I feel of the most use right now, because the people that I do find myself coming into contact with are the people that are sort of on the transitional bridge from the outside looking in, and they want that connection. They want to know how to come to that connection. They want to know how to tap in. They want to know how to connect with themselves. And for this purpose, late last year, I hired a production company to come and start recording online courses of me. I mean, I produced the courses, but other people recorded them, whatever. I produced an online course series that the second installment is about to come out. It's called the Sacred Self series. And the first is creating a sacred space. And the second is candle of presence, grounding into devotion. Yeah. Creating a candle of presence, grounding into devotion. And really the whole purpose of this series is to be that little bridge step to help people really curate first and foremost a personal place, a sacred space for themselves to come to do this work, to do work with astrology, to do the journaling, to do the chakra system work, to do the deep introspection, to do, tarot, oracle readings, smudge tools, essences, tinctures, anything it is that's calling to you. For me and myself in my personal practice, the last 5 years, having a devoted space for that sort of self-study is life-changing. It's like your own cubbyhole. It's your own little yummy, safe space to explore the self. So the first is creating a sacred space. And even before this podcast interview started, I took my candle of presence and I lit it. And this is an act of devotion to connecting with spirit, to grounding my own energy, to focusing myself for the task at hand. And this is what the second installment of the Sacred Self series is about, is creating that candle of presence and painting it, imbibing it with your own deep intention. And I'm guiding you through that process. And then we paint the candle together. So these are the two things that I have out for people right now. For someone that's less so in the ceremonial, ritualistic, sacred space feeling, I'm also hosting what's called a Gaia Gathering next Thursday. And have you heard of Gaia TV? Because I know you're attending the Gaia Gathering, but have you watched Gaia TV before?
Yes, I actually used to subscribe to it. Yeah, like every month. It's awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah. So basically, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, it's a conscious media streaming site. And they have thousands and thousands and thousands of TV shows and programs and documentaries that you're not probably going to find anywhere else that talk on things, all things consciousness, evolving and transformation and spirituality. It's like referred to as the Netflix for spirituality. And basically, I'm going to be sending out some links to about an hour's worth of content. And then we're going to hop onto a Zoom call afterward and hang out, share insights, ask questions, and just sort of discuss everything.
Yay! And I'll be there. So everyone listening should go too.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is free, and it's next Thursday, which is May 7th, full moon in Scorpio. So, what a beautiful time to get together and celebrate.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much. And I want to just say that you can find more information about Britt Lynn. She is at Britt Lynn Rising on Instagram, and her website is britlynnyoga.com, and everything will be in the description below. But thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much. Me too. Thank you for all the work that you're doing and the way that you're showing up in the world.
Thank you. I hope you've all enjoyed this amazing, beautiful, inspiring episode with Britt Lynn. I do apologize for the audio on my end, the voice recording on my end. I do realize it wasn't the best, so I apologize for that. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Please share. Please subscribe. There's so much wisdom in this episode that I think a lot of people will resonate with. I'll see you next week. Have a beautiful day.